Hi, I'm Pete Sardis for The Lawyer You Know, and today George and I are going to do part 2 of how to buy a car like a lawyer. Alright, if you've seen part 1, which tells you how to prepare to go into a dealership, now we're going to talk about part 2, which is actually going into the dealership and buying that car that you want. If you like this video, click like. If you like the content, hit subscribe. If you have a specific question, put it down below in the comments and we're happy to answer it for you. With that, all right, George, let's walk into the dealership.
Well, first off, this is not a game for wimps. When you go into that dealership, if you're not ready to argue, and if you're not ready to walk out, and if you're not ready to stomp your feet, you shouldn't be going in there negotiating for a car. There are people you can actually hire that will do that for you. But if you're willing to go in there and really negotiate and be hard and tough and stand your ground, then this is, frankly, and I think he does too, I love it. I enjoy going into this dealership. I am armed now. We showed you in the first video that you can get armed with things. We can arm with knowledge, armed with documents, armed with research from the internet, and you walk in there and you are ready to do battle.
And the reality is, you're right, I like the wheeling and dealing. It's part of what we do. But a lot of people don't. So you have to understand, this transaction is business. It is dollars and cents. Unless you're buying some super exotic car or a very limited edition machine. You know, a black Toyota Camry is a black Toyota Camry. You can get it at 10 different dealerships, probably within 50 miles of yourself. So you can't let yourself get emotional. I personally don't walk into the dealership to actually start shopping without my wife, because I know the minute I walk in and I see the exact car that I want, it's done. I'll take that one. Sir, you can have it for $10,000 over invoice. Okay, I'll take it. So I know that I need to have that person.
My wife will not go with me to the dealership. So she just lets me, once she's involved in the decision of what kind of car to buy. We do this at home, we talk about it, we look on YouTube, watch the car drive in circles and see the reviews. But then the negotiation part, she stays home. She has no interest in going with me at all.
So you walk into the dealership, you got your emotions out, you know what you're going to look for, right? What is it? How do you start the process? Do you just start kind of mingling around the dealership? Do you go to a dealer and say, hey, I want to see a specific type of vehicle that you found on their lot? What do? Do you call them?
Well, a lot of it, again, there's a couple things. First, what you decided to get, and whether you decided to get a new or a used car. If it's a used car, you probably are going to the dealership with a specific car in mind that you found on their website, for example. So you know what car you're interested in. If it's a new vehicle, then you have more options of shopping different dealerships for the same vehicle, because you can get that vehicle in different places. And in fact, I'll give you an example, which is kind of a funny example, is I was buying a car and negotiating with the BMW dealer in Clearwater. I knew somebody who knew the manager of the BMW dealer in Sarasota. So I negotiated the best price I could get in Clearwater. I call Sarasota up, and we'll talk in a minute about buying remotely. Because in today's world, that's just a wonderful benefit. So I'm going to the dealership in Sarasota, and then when I started getting, it's one thing you want to get, by the way, is the window sticker of the car. And we'll tell you why that's really important. They gave me the window sticker from Sarasota, the one they want to sell me. Turns out Sarasota was going to trade with the dealership in Clearwater, and it was the exact same car. They were both selling me the exact same car. Sarasota was about $400 more, because Sarasota had to pay for shipping to ship the car from Clearwater down to Sarasota. So when you know the car you want, you can start going to different dealerships. But be careful, because different dealerships may be trying to sell you the exact same car. They just want to wheel and deal and trade with another dealer.
And one of the things that I've done, because it works really well when you do a little bit of research on the internet, is I'll get the vehicle identification number, the VIN number, for a specific vehicle that I want. So if I've got a specific build that I found, I'll take that VIN number and I'll search vehicles similar to it, because that number will tell you everything from the paint code to the options packages to everything, right? So then what you do is you're negotiating with the dealer that has a specific vehicle you're talking about, but you're not negotiating with one dealership at a time, because you do what I do, because I learned it from you. You actually are negotiating with multiple dealerships for at least a couple of cars at the same time, right?
Yeah, and that's why it's important to get that window sticker to make sure it's apples to apples. Make sure the options on the vehicle you're negotiating for. For instance, I bought a car from Miami, never saw it until I actually went down and picked it up. I bought a car from Asheville just recently, Asheville, North Carolina. I didn't see the car till it arrived here in Clearwater on the back of a trailer. So you can negotiate remotely to make sure it's apples to apples. That's why you get that window sticker, to make sure the same options are on that car as the one you saw here in Clearwater. And then you can negotiate with them. It's amazing, but you really can negotiate just like it's the car, just like they're right there with you. Now, that's talking about new cars. There's a little difference in the way you do it with used cars.
Right, simply because there's not the abundance of the exact same vehicle, right?
Right.
So what do you do if you're looking for a pre-owned vehicle?
Well, on used cars, at least me, I would always buy a certified vehicle.
Okay, let's talk about what certified is for a
Okay.
second. For those of you that don't know the lingo, and we talked about lingo in the first video, certified is when a dealer provides an aftermarket or third-party warranty for that vehicle that is backed by the dealership and the manufacturer, right?
Right.
And what will happen is, and I'll give a simple example, if Ford gets another Ford vehicle back on their lot, they will take that vehicle and inspect it. If they determine that that vehicle is in good enough shape, they may tack on a certified warranty on it, which gives you a couple of years additional warranty on top of the new car warranty. And I know on some, let's just talk luxury brands, for example, BMW, Mercedes, Jaguar all do it. Your certified warranty is actually better than your new car warranty. And I'll give you an example of Jaguar, because I know it. Their warranty is 5 years, 50,000 or 60,000 miles. But if you get a certified car, they add an additional year or two to that vehicle. And now your vehicle mileage is up to 100,000 miles.
On BMW, that additional year has unlimited miles. You can drive as many miles as you want and you still get that year. And if it's certified, they've gone through the car, it has to have a certain amount of tread wear still on the car. The brakes have to be good. There can be no scratches or dents on the car. That's why if you buy a car remotely, unseen, Miami, Asheville, if it's certified, that guarantees that it's in a particular type of condition that you can rely on when it gets here. And if it's not in that condition, they will fix it and put it in that condition. So that's why when it's used, I always buy a certified car. And I enjoy buying remotely because there are times when I'm negotiating, for instance, with Asheville. I can take that Asheville, and I do it by text or not by email. I can take that offer, and I do it. I take that offer, I will walk down to the Clearwater dealership, I'll say, look, here's what Asheville's willing to sell that car for. What are you going to do? And dollars to donuts, they will beat Asheville's car cost because I still have to pay for the shipping from Asheville to Clearwater. So they should be able to beat it. If they're not willing to beat it, then I just walk out of the dealership and they won't see my dust.
And then that begs the next question. You cannot be afraid to walk out.
Right.
You can't be afraid to hurt anybody's feelings.
And frankly, salesmen are used to people walking out. And frankly, in fact, we'll talk about the in-house experience because that's always the same. It's kind of fun no matter what kind of dealership you go to, whether it's Toyota, BMW, Cadillac, it's the same series. They have the same script that they go through. But you've got to be able to walk out, and I got to tell you, 9 times out of 10, as you're walking out, someone will grab your arm and say, come on back in, let's talk about it a little more.
And there's a strategy to this because it's psychology. The dealer knows the longer they can keep you inside of their dealership, the better their chance of wearing you down to buy that car.
And it keeps you away from going to other dealerships if they can tie up your time. Now, we just mentioned it, the script. All right, the salesman comes in and here's 9 times out of 10. We just can't give it to you at that. I mean, we're losing money if we sell it to you for that price.
Misconception number one.
We're losing money.
The dealer never loses money.
Never. And then, and the other thing they'll always do, well, let me go talk to my manager, see if he's willing to do this. Always. In fact, if you don't see the manager, you are really doing a terrible job of negotiating because the manager will always, so he'll go and he'll disappear for a few minutes. He'll come back, and this other guy will come back and go, "Hello, I'm Joe Smith, and I'm the sales manager here. Let's see if we can work this out." And they'll try to squeeze you for every dime they can get out of you, which is why you've got to know the price you're willing to pay. Because if you say, "This is it," a lot of times they'll give you that "this is it," no matter how much they cry. The other thing I've done, and I just recently did this, they said, "We're losing money on this car." I said, "You know what? I don't want you to lose money. I'm a fair guy. Show me what you paid for the car, and I'll be happy to take a look at it. And if you're right, then maybe we will make some kind of deal." They have never come back and showed me what they paid for the car where it was less than what they're telling me they're selling me the car for. So, so you just can't believe any of that, Julie, which is why my wife doesn't go with me. But because you just can't believe that stuff. And I feel bad because, frankly, I've represented dealerships. And in dealership, there are honest dealerships. I'm not saying this is dishonest. This is just negotiating.
It's the business model.
It's the business model. It's just it's not dishonest. It's just negotiating. And you've got to know how to negotiate, because I guarantee you, they've trained that salesman, they've trained that sales manager. They go away to classes for weeks where they're trained on how to sell these vehicles.
One of the things that I do is I won't actually walk into the dealership until I have online, remotely, spoken to a couple dealers and I know what the range of prices is that I can get a car from somewhere else. That's the only time I'll walk into my dealership, because I already know I can get this car in Sarasota or Fort Myers for X dollars. So then I walk into my dealership locally, and I'll tell you, I don't have a lot of luck with it. Normally, I find that I can get a better buy from a bigger dealership, meaning a higher volume dealership. And I'll be specific. There's a dealership in Tampa that, without question, every time will beat the price of my local Clearwater dealer.
And I have had the local Clearwater dealers say that they cannot match the price of the larger dealership, because the more volume you do, the better price that the manufacturer gives that dealership. So that big dealerships get a discount above the small dealerships on the new cars.
Yeah. And even with the certified, if you find a certified car and it's in LA and you're here in Clearwater, I don't know if I'm afraid. I've done it before. I've bought cars from across the country, had them shipped, hadn't even seen them until they got here, and it worked out great because they were a bigger dealership. They had more volume, more selection. They were willing to make concessions to get a car sold.
Right. So you've got to know your dealership. You've got to know what kind of volume it does. And the other thing that I've also realized, after a while, if the salesman and general manager start to recognize that they're not getting anywhere with you with the usual pitches, you start to get real conversations. And they start to really talk about the real numbers. So you've got to show them you know about PACs. PACs, again, advertising costs, all these things that add on to the price. You know about the PACs. The other thing I do is I tell them, I'm not paying the delivery fee. That little $900 or $600 down there, I ain't paying it. You do nothing for it, I ain't paying it. And they'll go, "Oh, but the dealership, that's a rule we have to." Just like sales tax. We've got to charge this sales tax. I go in with a number. I say, I am willing to pay $30,000, let's say, for this car. That's it. Out the door, $30,000.
And out the door, let's use that. That's a technical term. Out the door meaning the car, tax, tag, title, everything.
Out the door for $30,000. And they'll go, "Well, the government requires a 7%. You know what? That's your problem. You figure that 7% into the $30,000. You just back it out. So I buy the car for $27,000, according to you, and you do all this other stuff, and it still comes to $30,000, because they can go back and back it out. Don't take this thing where they can't back it out. They can do that. They can do that with the delivery fee. They can do that with the taxes. They can do it with everything. You want to know the out-the-door price.
Everything is always negotiable.
Right.
And now, the negotiation doesn't stop there, right?
Right.
Because when you get to the point where they put all the paperwork in front of you, they're going to try to upsell you again, right?
Then they move you, again, until there's scripts. Then they move you to the finance manager. He's another guy that you have to deal with. He's the one that does all the paperwork for the car. And they always have private offices. So it's you and the finance manager sitting in there as he's throwing all the paperwork at you, and it is tons. I don't know why they make buying a car. I mean, if you want to walk in and pay cash for a car, it's still tons of paperwork.
Let me ask you about that paperwork, because the truth of the matter is, when you look at the numbers sometimes on the paperwork, the numbers don't add up sometimes, right? They'll tell you that you're looking for what you're paying for the car. The dealers sometimes will move around line items on the top of the sales contract, especially if they have a trade-in, right? You may negotiate a trade-in.
We haven't talked about what to do about trade-ins.
We'll get to that video.
Yeah.
But the point is, the numbers you'll see when you actually get to the paperwork may not necessarily be the exact same numbers. What you're really looking for is that bottom line.
That's why the out-the-door price is important, because they will shift numbers all over the place, like the sales tax or the delivery fee. It'll still show sales tax. It'll show delivery fee. But on the very bottom line, right there, what you pay should be that $30,000.
What about the add-ons that are going to try to throw at you at the end?
Well,
tinted windows, pinstriping. What about service contracts, extended service
well, like
contracts?
I said, we talked about that in the first video, where sometimes they could be worthwhile. Depending on the car you buy, if it's one that's a high-maintenance car, if it's a car that if it breaks, I know I had a service advisor once tell me on the Mercedes, in a Mercedes dealership, AMGs, for some reason, everything costs twice as much to fix an AMG. I don't own an AMG, but he told me that. And he said it's just because it says AMG. So if you've got the kind of car that is just a really expensive repair problem, you might want to think about the extended warranty.
Okay, you bought the car, you're excited. What if you have a car that you want to make part of the deal? Okay.
Well,
when is the right time to broach that discussion?
After you find out what your bottom line out the door price is. Do not deal with your trade-in. When you walk in and they ask you, do you have a trade-in? Say, I don't know. Maybe I do, maybe I don't. Let's just talk about the car, because it makes it too complicated if you're dealing with all these numbers. You get your out the door $30,000. Then you say, all right, I've got a trade-in. You know what your car is worth because you've been on Edmunds, you've been on Car Guru, you've been on Kelley Blue Book, so you know what your used car is worth on a trade-in. And that's what the number now you're looking for to take off of that bottom line number.
And let's talk about that for a minute. A car is a commodity. It has a fixed value. If you were to go, for example, to CarMax and ask them, well, what will you buy my car for? They will give you a number, right? That number is the wholesale price of that car. So from that wholesale price to the trade-in value, that is the spread that the dealer has on the profit for buying your car.
There is actually, if you look at Edmunds, they'll give you three prices. They will give you a private sale price, which means if you want to sell that car yourself to somebody else,
that's not a dealer.
That's not a dealer. This is the price your car should command. If you want to trade it in, this is the price your car will command. Or if you want to sell it wholesale to another dealer, just the car, not a trade-in, this is the price your car is worth. And believe it or not, those are three totally different prices. The trade-in price is usually the lowest of those three.
Right.
And so you know what your trade-in price is. So again, once they give you the out-the-door number, start negotiating that trade-in price.
And again, do the same thing. We talked about it. Video number 1, go back and take a look at it. Make sure you know what the value of your trade-in is. And you know what? Call Carvana. Check with CarMax. Get a wholesale price so you know even if you don't sell your car to this dealer, you can always get rid of it at a different dealer just easily. If you're a little more savvy and you don't mind the wheeling and dealing, sell it yourself. You'll always make more, right?
Right. And there is one thing to don't forget about is that sales tax. If you trade a car in, that saves you sales tax. You don't pay the 7% sales tax on that trade-in.
Right. Because that's your money.
That's because it's your money. So you do save 7% that goes into your pocket if you trade a car in on a new car you're buying. And,
let me ask you a question. In Florida, and I think it's a misconception, in the state of Florida, is there a grace period, a cooling off period, some states call it, for car purchases?
I thought there was not.
There is not. State of Florida is
even though other consumer contracts are 3 days in Florida, they do not have that same provision for cars.
Yeah, when you buy a car in Florida, you bought that car. Unless, it's a lemon law issue, and we can talk about that at some point in a different video, meaning that something's wrong with the car and you have to have the state get involved to get you a new car. Other than that, you sign that contract, it's yours, right? So you better be sure.
And now again, while you're sitting there in the office of the finance manager who's trying to sell you all these other things, another question that you've got to decide is, do you want to buy it or lease it?
Right. Maybe we can do another video on buying versus leasing and how to make that decision. That's all for now. If you enjoyed this video, click like. If you like the content, subscribe below. If you have any questions, put them down there. We'll get back to you. Stay tuned for video number 3, which is determining whether you should buy or whether you should lease.